What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerd Out. Now, today is going to be a short episode. I'm running a little short on time, so we're really just going to hit the updates on the latest chapter 1141, and we're going to wrap it up there. We'll have the Itchy the Witch, and we'll have some of the seasonal stuff in the next episode, plus any other updates that happen to come up during the week, so be tuned for that. But for now, let's get to the chapter. Of course, if not caught up the latest chapters or episodes, please know that there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
We got One Piece chapter 1141, Older Women. And this is such an odd title because at first glance and after reading it, the older women comment really doesn't come into play for the chapter. So I'm guessing it's alluding to something else. By itself, it's just an offhand comment, so I'm guessing there's some deeper meaning to it, or it's going to come back around at some point. Cover story is a continuation of Ulti in page 1 getting bullied by Who's Who. Ulti's still chained up, she can't do anything. And they got page 1 and it looks like they're trying to execute him first. And I can see that page 1 has handcuffs on as well. I'm pretty sure they're all coated in sea stone. That's why they can't do anything. And I think I mentioned that before, that the only reason Ulti wouldn't be fighting to her dying breath is because she has sea stone on and can't move. But I'm guessing they're going to get stopped before anything really serious happens, so we'll be looking forward to that in the next chapter. The chapter itself starts off with Nami, Luffy, Zoro, Road, and the incapacitated giants leaving the castle. Nami's super upset because she didn't find any gold whatsoever, which I think Scopper talked about earlier, that basically this place would have been pilfered a while ago. And it's still funny to me that the fact that this castle got robbed means that the robber is still somewhere on Elbaf. Like, they haven't gone anywhere. At least I would imagine they haven't gone anywhere. Now that I think about it, the only other people that might have taken it would be God Knights. People who can get in and out of the castle without being noticed. The issue with that would be, why would they leave the key behind? I think Scopper stressed that the key was there solely because whoever robbed the rest of the treasure didn't want to set Loki free. So we have to constantly think about that when we think about what happened to the treasure. I am curious to know if there's a bigger meaning to that, because this is the second or third time that the treasure has been mentioned. And I know it's kind of Nami's gag, but for it to be mentioned that much, and with detail from Scopper, and with Nami commenting on it just being cleared out multiple times, I feel like there might be a deeper meaning to that, but we'll see if that plays out. Now, Road hears all these plans about freeing Loki. He hears the plans about Nami wanting to stop the treasure, and he's basically just rolling with it because, Road doesn't care. Road literally does not care about anything else but what he's doing. And to a degree, I don't blame him. But I know the rest of Elbaf would have his head if he was just being so compliant like this with humans. So they're heading over to Loki, and we cut over to Frankie and Ripley. And Ripley's giving Frankie a bit more lore on Elbaf and on the Atom Tree. And basically, the tree is so big and so sprawling that the branches themselves tell a different story. And one of the branches had to get cut off because of the village there caught fire. And the reason they really couldn't stop it was because you're on a tree. It's an old tree. It was dry. It just lit up, and they couldn't put the fire out. And this prompts Ripley to say that basically Elbaf's weakness is fire and lightning. And I don't want to say that's a really bad weakness, because I doubt they would just die from fire. But the fact that fire and lightning, which are two very abundant elements in One Piece, can take out your entire home is kind of crazy. And I'm not gonna ignore the illusion that, we've been hinting at a certain return of somebody, and it's possible that that certain somebody has lightning powers. Just saying, it would fit in rather well. But then we cut over to the tavern where everyone's still partying, and Usopp is lit. And I don't know if I've ever seen Usopp be drunk. And to be honest, I don't know if I've ever really seen the Straw Hats be drunk. The most we've seen is like when Zoro or Nami drinks, but they have such high tolerances that it doesn't really affect them that much. But like Usopp here is kind of a sloppy drunk. He's been like, hey, come meet my friends and you're cool and all this and that. Like he's feeling it. And it's kind of cool because like Usopp's kind of like, he's vibing, and you don't normally see Usopp vibing like this. He's always stressed out or something's always going on. So I think it is nice to see him just having a genuinely good time. And he's like boasting about Nami. And this is where Jarl mentions that she's a beauty, but he's into older women. And it's such like it feels like such a throwaway that I can't imagine it's actually a throwaway. And it also leads to Usopp smacking the sword in his head, which causes him great pain. And then it causes the other giants around him to kind of freak out. I think that's going to be another plot point. It seems like, because initially when we got introduced to Jarl and he talked about the sword, he was talking about how his helmet saved him. And what we imagine is that maybe the sword didn't like pierce certain part of his head, or like the sword did something, and there might be something to gain from pulling it out, as Usopp even mentions Excalibur. I think there's an overarching plot to that, especially with how fishy some of the things surrounding Jarl and just overall the Elbaf stories. So I would like to see something come of that. It's funny because Brook is also drunk, but like he's singing, but like he just has his head disconnected. Like his head is just vibing and his body's just playing music. So it's good to see them both just having a good time. They do mention that they haven't seen like Luffy and Zoro in a little bit. They're wondering where Nami went. And basically Nami just plays it off like, they're probably exploring. And Nami actually says what I was just saying, which is that, it's really nice seeing Usopp in this light because this is his dream place. Like this is where he's been wanting to go since we met him. So this has a lot of value to him. Sanji, on the other hand, doesn't know where Gerd is. And so immediately that draws his attention. And we also cut to Gerd. Turns out Road brought Gerd the two giants that got injured in the castle by the God's Knights. And she's treating them, but she wants to know what happened because they're really messed up. And she's like, yeah, that doesn't normally happen. Like these are two like really strong guards. Why are they messed up like this? And Road can't tell a lie to save his life. He's stuttering, stepping through his speech. He starts sweating, which Gerd notices immediately. Boy is struggling. And Gerd's obviously trying to get to the bottom of this because she can tell something's weird. So she's like, first she wants to interrogate the guards. Road says no to that. Then she wants to tell Jarl. Road says no to that. So she's like, all right, let me get some info. And she puts the beat down on Road. Now at first I saw the panel where she was jumping up to hit Road. And for some reason, it kind of triggered in my mind that she was a traitor. I don't know why, but like just the idea that Road's not looking and she's like lining up her axe to attack him, I was like, okay, what's going on with Gerd? And then I realized that she always beats him up. Like that's a thing she always does, is beats him up. And if you also look, you can tell that she's lining up the hit with the back of her axe. So she's not trying to kill him, she's just trying to get some info out of him. And as Road lays in the ground, we go down to the underworld, and it looks like Luffy and Zoro have run into Loki again. Now, because of Loki's interaction with Gunko and Shamrock, he's pretty much knocked out. Like he's bleeding, injured. Bruh's having a hard time. And Zoro's basically quizzing Luffy because it's like, based on what Luffy said before, this is an entirely different scene where like Luffy was having a whole conversation with Loki. They were making deals and stuff, and then they come back, and Loki's basically, like he's not, obviously not dead, but he's basically tore up. And Zoro seeing that, seeing all the animals being knocked out, seeing the sea prism, it's all telling of like, okay, there's a lot more going on here than Luffy probably said. Luffy probably said, there's some dude down in the underworld who has info on Shanks. I want to let him free. And then Zoro comes and sees all this, and he's like, okay, you know what? Call it off. This is too much. Side note, the confirmation that we are using sea stone here, I think would imply that Loki does have that Dole fruit. And I can't remember if we actually get like the 100% confirmation. I think I remember seeing something that said it was confirmed, but I don't remember seeing how it was confirmed. Most likely it was an official translation type thing, but this would pretty much guarantee that he has some kind of Dole fruit. Now, the only other reason that we use sea stone is because I think it's essentially the strongest of the material they can make. And you would need that to tie down basically the strongest person in Elbaf, so here, there, makes sense. What I would like to know is who manufactures chains this size in sea stone. I would like to figure that out. That just seems like a cool side bit. And essentially Luffy and Zoro get into an argument about freeing Loki because, like I said before, this isn't the deal that Zoro thought it would be. Zoro was expecting something way different, and he comes down here and he sees all this and it's like, yeah, there's a lot going on and it seems really bad. And in the midst of that, he goes up and he kicks Loki in his wound. And Loki responds by shouting out. And this is kind of like Zoro's way of testing, 1, is he alive? 2, are the wounds real? And 3, can we get him to respond? And so we kind of hit all 3 of those with that kick. But Loki doesn't really stay conscious for long. He responds to Zoro like, why'd you do that? And then he passes out again. And then after that kick, Zoro actually agrees to unchain him, but he's like, let's only do it partially. Let's not do the whole bit. Let's just get his arms, his chest free. Let's keep his legs locked up for now. And then Luffy mentions that they're going to need a doctor. Of course, he wants to go get a chopper, but they're too far away. So they're going to go check back in the village. Zoro notes that basically if Luffy goes back and he's like, hey, I free Loki, he needs help, they're going to get banished. And Luffy's just like, all right, that's fine. Luffy does not care. And I find that a little bit odd just because, obviously this is Usopp's dream to be here, but I feel like Luffy would be more hesitant about getting banished from Elbaf. Considering not only does he want to be here, but this is Usopp's dream, and you're about to get everybody banished from here. It just seems like a bit of an oversight from Luffy, but I think he's really stuck on that Shanks info, so we'll see how that plays out. There's a funny little side gag where Zoro was talking about basically they need to stock up if they're going to get banished, so they need meat, because Luffy basically passes out and he needs meat. And this is it's a funny nod because I think in the community for a while we've been talking about how much Luffy needs to eat in order to keep up his stamina, stay strong in fights. And now we even have Zoro mentioning that, yeah, you gotta have meat or else you're just useless. Now, as Luffy departs to get a doctor, he hears something coming out of the sky. So he looks up and he sees that it's the new giant pirates. You got Hydruden, you got Stanson, you got Road, Gerd, you got the other one, Goldberg, that's his name, Goldberg. They all come flying down and random Sanji is here too. I don't believe any of the other Straw Hats came down with them, it was just Sanji. But basically they got the information out of Road, they beat him up, let the information out, and they came to stop Luffy. And they're panicking because they came in one of the ships that has the clouds, but the clouds don't function in Underworld. So what happened is they got to a certain level and they lost the cloud protection, so now they're just straight up falling. And even as giants, I guess a fall from that height is going to be very, very dangerous. And they're nose diving straight down, so they out here saying prayers, and then Luffy does a Gum Gum Fusen. So Gum Gum Balloon. But it's the sheer scale of how big this Gum Gum Balloon would have to be. Because what happens is the ship with 5 giants on it crashes into Luffy. And Luffy is bigger than the ship. Luffy is bigger than the giants on the ship in this Gum Gum Balloon phase. So he inflated so much. This is scales and scales bigger than how big he got when he did it for Sengoku's punch. Like, he has to be giant right now. And it seems like he did it with ease. So much so that they actually get basically rebounded off of Luffy. And they take some fall damage because they get shot back into the sky. Like, Gerd actually manages to like fall out. Like, when Luffy kind of rebounds the strike, Gerd is already falling out of the ship, so she doesn't get shot back up, but everybody else does. And while they thank Luffy for saving them, they're like, yeah, you can't let Loki out. And while they thank Luffy for saving them, they're like, yeah, you can't let Loki out of here. And Hydrugen starts going on about basically how when they were kids, whenever he would do something or say something that seemed nice, it was all a lie. He betrays people, black-hearted, trickster. And it reminds me a lot of the dialogue in Thor Ragnarok where Thor is telling Valkyrie and Bruce about Loki as a kid, where like Loki disguised himself as a snake and then stabbed him, and they were 8 at the time. Like, that dialogue reminds me exactly of that. As they're basically having this spiel, Zoro just ends up finishing the job and unchaining Loki anyway. And it's like Luffy's face is already, he's doing that I can't tell a lie face, but he's not saying anything. But it's basically because like, oop, we already did. It's too late. And then we get this glorious panel of Loki standing up. And like the shadowing is so nice because like it's him standing up, so we get like kind of like a full length feature of Loki, which we haven't seen yet, but it has like his face silhouetted, and we know what he looks like, so it's not like he's hiding any identity. It just makes him look so towering and imposing, and naturally everyone's freaking out. And then Loki grabs his weapon, and for the life of me, I can't tell what kind of weapon it is because it looks sort of different in every panel. In this one, it seems like it's a hammer, and it even has a name, which is Ragnir. So I'm assuming it's something very similar to Mjolnir, or basically it's a Norse mythological weapon and or a Norse mythological reference to another like creature or mythos in that mythology. I think I looked it up and I didn't find anything specific. I think the most I found was something from Brawlhalla, which is a character named Ragnir. Oddly enough, I think that character has ties to Norse mythology. So it kind of comes into play. I would imagine if this character has ties to Norse mythology, I assume that the name itself just does. So that's probably where all of that comes from. But this panel is clean, it's sick. Now, Loki does still have one set of sea stone cuffs on his left leg. So he's not 100% free. I would love it if there's something that Loki can do to get free. Like if he's strong enough to maybe smash that last set of chains, if he has like some kind of crazy hockey feat to do it, I would like to see if he can break himself out now that he's mostly free. What's crazy is the size difference, because Hydrugen is like half of Loki's size. Like in the panel where they're begging Luffy not to unlock him, you can see like all the other giants kind of like squatted down, and in like a squatted pose, they pretty much reach up to his chest. So Loki is just huge for being a giant. What I imagine based on the look he has is that he's about to wreak some havoc. And he woke up like immediately. As soon as the chains were off, man was up. So I wonder if he has some kind of healing factor. I wonder if there's something tied with a devil fruit where, you know, maybe if he's taking damage while it's negated, he wasn't able to heal as much, but now he can. I have no idea, but this panel is hype. There really isn't anything like major to discuss as far as like lore or plot point wise. It's pretty simple. Loki's free now. They didn't really cover anything too crazy. I think the most hint, hint, wink, wink was the telling of like fire and lightning being Elbaf's weakness. That's going to come back later. How it does, I'm not entirely sure. I would love to see our big goat Nell come back. But there are a few ways they can make that happen. As far as next chapter, we're definitely going to see some kind of Loki pop off. I'm guessing next chapter is going to be a bit more of an agenda chapter, because what's happening is now we have the monster trio here. We have Luffy, we have Zoro, and we have Sanji, who came randomly because Gerd is coming here. Which means we may get the monster trio versus Loki. And of course, this is a nerfed Loki, so we gotta take it with a grain of salt. It's not gonna be a full-fledged battle. It's not gonna be everybody at their top peak strength, but I'm expecting to see some Loki feats. Like I said, this is going to be a short episode today. Sorry, I just don't have the complete time to kind of go in length at it. But like I said, next week I should have a longer length episode. We should have all the other updates as well. If you remember, today is the day where the Straw Hats join the Lakers. So if you haven't caught that, check that out. I'm sure there'll be clips online of it as well. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.